but someone knows something, yet everyone plays ball. I say we round them all up, let's brain fingerprint them all.
Hello everybody, this is Eric Jose on Making a Murderer on YouTube. I cover the Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey cases, but also as time passes I've been covering other cases such as the Staircase or OJ and many wrongful convictions of youth. I go over the documents, the photos, the videos, anything case related, so stay tuned because I have many more videos just like the one you're about to see. Hello everybody, how you doing today? Today we're here to talk a little bit more about when Making a Murderer 2 emerges here in the next couple days, some of the things that are most likely going to be said. And I say this because I know that these things were said before. They were continued, you know, the people who said them, you know, namely King Kratz, Fassbender, continued to say them for the time in between when Making a Murderer 1 came out, and now they've continued to say. But you go into the case documents and you see the proof that, you know, Teresa, well, for instance, the claim that Teresa was afraid of Stephen and afraid of going to Avery Salvage or whatever, right? There's kind of a number of ways where it really just doesn't ring true. Number one, there's the fact that they tried to say that Teresa didn't know where she was going and that they were trying to confuse her. The fact of the matter is once you find out you're going to Avery Road, you're going to Avery Road. There's no deception there. But beyond that, what we're going to look at today is an actual investigation report from CASO, from the Calumet County Sheriff's investigation reports in the original investigation of a gentleman who came to investigators on the 13th of November and claimed that he thought he was in a chat online with Teresa the day before she disappeared. And he has some interesting things to say, and ultimately it would appear that Teresa had nothing against Stephen at all. In fact, you might even go as far as to say she kind of liked him. Not like anything special, but just thought he was cool, or didn't think anything bad about him and thought he was a cool dude. You have whatever far, but we get a clear indication here from this gentleman who, it seems to me that he identified her pretty well by digging into her, which, by the way, the way he dug into her and kind of stalked her online was threw up a little bit of a flag for me. So I'm wondering how much this guy ever got looked into in terms of that. But the fact of the matter is that his digging, due to the things that she had said, like she was into photography and that sort of thing, allowed him to go to the YahooMembers.com and find her profile. He was able to pull up a picture. So that's why on the 13th, when he was suddenly seeing Teresa's pictures in the news media and saying that she had been murdered down on Avery Road, he decided to come, you know, to the investigators and give what we're going to see here in this document. Now, if this guy came in and only had, like, you know, had some spotty, you know, information, but he says a lot of things that would indicate he was talking to Teresa. So I'll let everybody here make their own judgment, of course. So we'll go into the document and we'll come on back. Okay, so this is from the CASO investigation reports. It's about a gentleman named, you know, Mr. Harried, who came to the sheriff's department, well, it's a Calumet Sheriff's Department, whatever, came to the law enforcement officers on the 13th of November of 2005 with this account, where he believes that he was talking to Teresa in an internet chat room the night before she went missing. So that's where we're at here. Obviously, he's seeing the news reports, and now he's remembering talking to this girl online, and you're going to see why he feels like he knows. He's pretty sure it was her, because he's got a lot of information here. So he's got he talks about how he possibly may have been talking to her and that she mentioned going to the Avery property. Harriet indicated that the day before Teresa Halbach went missing, he was online in a chat room, membersyahoo.com, with someone who he believed to be Teresa Halbach. He was unsure of the date, but he stated he was for certain that it was the day before she went missing. He stated that he had tried to contact her via Yahoo on a previous occasion. He stated that he had looked up her profile on membersyahoo.com and searched by location. He stated he found her information along with her photo online. Harry stated, now, if he found a photo and he's seeing her in the news and saw the posters of her around, that's pretty definitive that he's pretty confident it was her. So he stated that he actually had done a chat with her the day before she went missing in the Wisconsin chat room. He stated Teresa mentioned she enjoyed photography, and this was one of the items that he had used when he was querying membersyahoo.com and located her profile. So he was using the fact that she liked photography and had an interest in it and stuff, and that's how he found the Teresa that he found. And like I say, she's also he also saw her picture, and so when he would see that would when he looked her up, her profile, and saw her picture, when he would see that picture in the news, that would be a pretty definitive thing, I would think. So Harriet stated that day before she went missing, he was in a Wisconsin chat room and he saw her name as active in the chat room, in the chat line. He stated that he tried to text her. He stated that he saw on her profile that she was from the Green Bay area, and he messaged her asking if she would be interested in meeting people on the internet. He stated that they chatted about photography and outdoors and other things. And this is the rest of what they talked about. Harriet stated the person he was chatting with, who he believed to be Teresa, which I think he's probably right, mentioned seeing Stephen Avery in file footage run on the television regarding his multi-million-dollar lawsuit. She indicated she had been to Stephen Avery several times before taking photos. According to Harriet, the person he was chatting with stated that friends of hers told her not to hang around Avery's, but she thought Stephen was a nice guy. So there you have it. I mean, there was never any fear for Teresa going to the salvage yard. You're going to hear people tell you differently, I'm sure. When MAM2 comes out, you're going to hear a bunch of people suddenly talking about, how Teresa was afraid to go there. Greaseback, Kratz, Fallon, Fassbender. You're going to hear them all talking about how she was afraid to go there. And it's just not true. It just isn't. She knew where they tried to say she didn't know where she was going, but she did. When she eventually found out where she was going, she was fine. Then we have this guy's account. I can't imagine who else in the world this guy could have been talking to that would have noticed Stephen Avery on the news for his wrongful conviction and stuff, because she'd been to his yard a few times, that would mention going there, that had an interest in photography. I mean, yeah, I don't know. The odds that this isn't Teresa seems slim to none. It seems like this guy was chatting with Teresa, and like I said, she was not afraid to go to the Averys. She was not afraid of Stephen. So I will say that whoever this gentleman was that came and made this report with the investigators, it just kind of makes me a little concerned at how aggressively he was looking up Teresa's profile and digging up information about her. But I suppose that's somewhat normal, But what's important there is, I think that all the things that he says convince me that I think he really truly was talking to Teresa. And if they did look into him, great, but they probably should have. If they didn't, they missed something. And when you talk about missing something, one of the big things that I see missed, and you're going to see in the clip I'm going to play an audio clip for you right now, from Making a Murderer. And it's the clip where Jerry Buting is asking about the deleted voicemails and the whole back and forth that happens between him and Kratz, and then Buting and Willis, and then Willis and Kratz, and the way that whole thing goes around, and the way that the Kratz just gets like, you know, if we knew that the defense was going to change their nobody's changing their theory, Kratz. Quit trying to put words in people's mouth. So, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and play that clip for you now. And the truth of it is how did those voicemails get deleted? It means that somebody was playing with Teresa's phone at a time when it was supposed to have been destroyed, supposedly. So it's a severe question. So, as I said, I'm going to leave us all with that clip on the way out. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.
So, if your records show that on a certain date, messages were opened all the way up to that date on Teresa Halbach's phone, that would mean that somebody had listened to those voice messages.
I'd like to be heard outside the presence of the jury.
Mr. Kratz?
He's about to show her some retrieved voicemails on the 2nd. If Mr. Buting's position, if his theory of defense is that Teresa Halbach is alive on the 2nd of November, we're entitled to know that. We're entitled to notice of that. That's my objection, is that it's irrelevant.
Mr. Kratz may draw the conclusion that because messages are opened as of November 2nd, that means that Teresa Halbach was alive on that date. I don't. And I don't think the jury needs to either. But I do intend to introduce records that show that her voicemail was picked up at 8 a.m. on November 2nd. Something was going on with this phone in a very, very critical period of time for this trial, which is between October 31st and November 5th when her car was found, or November 3rd when she's reported missing.
How does that help this jury decide who killed her? That's what the jury's here to do, Judge.
Because unless the state's prepared to establish that Mr. Avery had her password, then he's not the one who's listening to her messages on Wednesday, November 2nd at 8 a.m. So and their theory is that he's already destroyed the phone.
Never said he was.
Somebody who knew her, somebody who may have had a motive that he doesn't have, and somebody who may have had opportunity was doing that.
Sounds like
I'm not suggesting that she was still
liability,
alive.
Judge.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
I don't,
Now, I'm not going to argue that part to the jury because that's what the court says we're not going to do. But as far as what's relevant is the police have had this report, and the police have not followed up to find out what's up here.
does the state know who accessed the voicemail?
I suppose we, if there was an inkling that Mr. Buting was going to suggest that Ms. Halbach was alive at that time, this is something that could have been looked into investigatively. It's another thing that we could do, Judge, if the defense is changing its theory.
This is not changing the theory at all. This fits perfectly to show that they have not followed up this investigative lead because this investigative lead points elsewhere than Mr. Avery. And here we are in the middle of the trial and it hasn't been investigated. The jury has a right to know that.
All right, I'm, I guess, having trouble seeing the apparent relevance of it at this stage of the trial. Let's bring the jurors back in.